water or something? Just one more second. Yes, I'm just posting this online for the people who are watching. All right. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. So yesterday we finished off speaking about those things which nullify wudu. Before we go on, are there any questions about that topic? And what we'll do is I'll only take questions at the end of each chapter now, just to keep things going. But is there any question about breaking wudu from the last class? Yes.
So these are the things that just break wudu, not necessarily ghusl as well.
Yeah. So for example, passing gas from the anus breaks wudu, but doesn't break your ghusl. Okay. And there's things that don't. There are things that do not. Okay, this is interesting. Does gas for the woman from the front, from the vagina, does that break wudu? The answer is no. This is something actually important to know that here it said anything that exits from the two openings, but the exception that I have seen is that if gas comes out from the front, it does not break wudu. Only gas from the back. Okay. And as I said before, we will be very explicit because this is the deen and we have to teach it. Are we ready to go on? Any questions about wudu or breaking wudu? No? Yeah. Nope. I mean, how else are you going to get it wet? You could take the water out, but then you get your floor dirty. You'll get your floor wet. And you don't have to put it under the tap. You can even splash the water a little bit on top of the limb. That's fine to do as well, right? Okay, so now we're going to speak about ghusl. This is probably one of the things that people get confused about. Ghusl in the end is just a bath. People try to make it like, I'm not taking a ghusl, I'm just taking a bath. And they're really honestly the same thing. They're the same thing, right? But the problem is that in our minds, we have made it so that, I've heard of people say, oh, I just took a shower today, but I didn't take a ghusl, so I can't pray. Like, for example, a woman has finished her period, and she's going to work. She goes in the shower, and then she says, oh, I went to work, I showered, but I didn't take a ghusl. I said, what's the difference? In their minds, the ghusl has become like a kind of a separate ritual, and in the end, it's the same thing. Allah said, take a bath. So a bath is just what? Here's the 3 obligatory actions. Number 1, by the way, is the volume good, or do we need to put the volume up? Good? Okay. Number 1 is you have to rinse the entire mouth once. So what does that mean? And what they say in the Hanafi school is that you just get it down a little bit. So like, for example, you don't have to go like, make a noise. You don't have to go like this. You see sometimes, especially in Indo-Pak, you see people going like this. You don't need to do that. And you don't need to, you don't need to make noises, okay? Once you take water and just put it a little bit to the back, and then like here, like that, you spit it out once, you've done it. Sunnah is how many times? 3 times. Okay? Rinse water up to the nose. Now this is up to the bone. This is not up to the soft part. So you're not just going like this. You're going. Now, if you don't know how to do this, because some people are a little scared, oh no, is it going to go to my brain? It's not going to go to your brain. Don't worry. You'll be fine. And you don't have to give yourself a headache. You know, sometimes you take water up too much, it gets a headache. No. What you do is you hold water and let the surface of the water just go like this, gently. Put your nostrils over and just breathe gently. When you see it hit the limit, and you just push it a little bit, and then it's done. Okay, that's it. You don't actually have to ingest it so that it goes and starts to fry your brain. That's not what you have to do. Just like this until it goes like this up here, and then you let it out. Okay? And then, number 3 is you wash whatever is possible without undue difficulty or hardship of the entire body. In reality, taking a bath is you just wet your whole body once. Only Imam Abu Hanifa said you have to do the nose and the mouth. Why? Because he said these are the outside of your body. So then somebody said, how can it be outside of your body? He said, well, in fasting, isn't it that if you just put water in your mouth, it doesn't break your fast? You have to swallow it, correct? So he said, therefore, the mouth is the outside of the body. Inside is when you swallow. Same with the nose. When you're making wudu in your fast, you go like this. In wudu, it doesn't break your fast. Okay? Unless it goes inside. So he said to be thorough. But if you really look at it, the other schools of thought did not believe you had to do the mouth and the nose. So Shafi'i school of thought, Maliki school of thought, they just take one full shower. The easier part, so the Hanafi school is a little bit, has that only the mouth and the nose difficulty, challenge. Now, if you forget to do it, even if you remember an hour later and you've dried your body, oh, I took a full shower and I forgot to do mouth and nose. It's okay. Go to any sink and just do mouth, nose, you're done. Your ghusl is then complete. So you're walking around with an incomplete ghusl until that point, okay? You don't have to take the entire bath again. Do we need to have intention to do ghusl? So what happens if, let's say a person had marital relations, and then they wake up and they're getting late for work, so they take a shower and then they leave and they say, oh, I forgot to do ghusl. They didn't need to have intention to do it. Once you wet your body, but then they had to do the mouth and the nose. So here's what personally, I do this, and most people I know do this. Just do a ghusl every time you shower. Like every time you shower, do it the proper way. It doesn't take any more time, okay? Literally, whenever you get in the bath, just do and then do the whole shower. And that way, you're always doing ghusl and there's always reward. You're always doing this as an act of reward because you're doing ghusl every time. Does that make sense? So this is to demystify the idea that ghusl and bath are 2 separate things, okay? Now, there is a question. If you get into a bathtub, technically speaking, when we mean bath, we mean a shower. If you get into a bathtub and then you sit in the tub and then you're putting the water like this, then no. Because when you sit inside the water, it becomes used. And then you cannot start using it to, you get what I'm saying? So it has to be you're pouring water or water is flowing, or you get inside the bath such that you get completely submerged inside the bath. But you can't like sit inside a bathtub and then you're going, you're taking some water, putting it, because when you touch the water, it becomes used water, okay? That's important to know, all right? But if I get pushed inside a swimming pool by accident, and then some water went in my nose and throat, do I have ghusl? Yes, I have ghusl. If somebody pushed me in the pool, and before that, I had drank a little bit of water and I put water up my nose, it's fine. Okay, any questions about the fard of ghusl? Yes. Yes. Now, once you have ghusl, you automatically have wudu. You do not need to get out and make it again. You do not have to make it in the shower, like do a wudu. In fact, subhanAllah, once you do a ghusl, it completely covers over any ritual impurity, right? That any state that you have. Now here's the thing. You're supposed to wash whatever is possible without undue hardship. So there's some things which may have undue hardship. What is that? Let me see. So you're supposed to make sure water gets inside your hair, for example, in the roots. Okay? You are supposed to have, let me just hear. Water, it's assumed to go inside the navel, for example. They suggest if you have earrings, just you move them. But even if you don't, it's assumed that it'll go inside, right? If a man is not circumcised, he should make sure he cleans under the foreskin. Same with a woman, should clean within the folds of her private part. And just in general, you make sure water reaches everywhere. It is a bath, right? Now, the sunnahs of ghusl, the emphasized sunnahs of ghusl are in this order. Number one is niyyah. So you notice here it's not fard, it's sunnah. So it's good to know that you're taking a ghusl. Instead of just mindlessly taking a shower, just taking a ghusl. And it's if you want, you don't really say Bismillah for it, but you can say Bismillah. Even in your head, you can say it out loud. You take the niyyah, Bismillah. And then you start washing the hands up until the wrist. Why? Because your hands are what you're touching everything else with. So you first clean your hands. That's sunnah, like wudu. Then you wash your private parts, front and back. Okay? So while you're in the shower, you wash your private part, front and back. And it's okay to touch with your hand, you can do that. And then you wash off any filth from the body. So let's say, for example, some sexual fluid got on a person's leg, they would wash that off. It is not fard to use soap. It is hygienic to use soap. Okay? So you don't have to say, oh, I didn't use soap. That's okay. Normal water will take off every single urine, semen, period blood, anything, vomit. Water is enough to take care of it. You don't need to say, oh, this is really dirty. So for example, the beer that got splashed on me last week, it's disgusting. But I don't need to now, it's not religiously required for me to scrub the spot with soap. Yeah, I might want to do that. Same with, for example, like a dog licks you or something. Again, you don't need to use soap, but if you do it, alhamdulillah, that's good, right? One thing I have to tell Muslims, and one thing we have to mention, unfortunately, some Muslims take this to be like all they do. So I'll give you an example. So when is it sunnah to take a ghusl? Every what? Friday. Does this mean you only bathe on Friday? Okay. If any of you only bathe on Friday, please don't put up your hand. But I will tell you that maybe in some country and some place, this was normal because water was limited. So, you had one tank of water, you live with 10 people, everybody has to take a bath. And then, your parents, or, come on, why do you have to take a bath every single day? You're going to waste water. So once a week, people shower. Okay, I understand. But when you come to places here, where it's expected, it's normal, the water is available. I'm not saying you have to take a bath every day. What I'm trying to say is you should take it often enough so that you don't smell. Because otherwise there is this impression. I had this before I was Muslim too, and I've noticed this as well. A lot of non-Muslims, they look down on Muslims for that. They think Muslims are dirty. Can you believe this? How can you think Muslims are dirty when our deen teaches the best cleanliness? But we Muslims, unfortunately, we think because I wash in istinja, I use water, I'm now clean. I don't need to use deodorant. I don't need to use soap. I don't need to brush my teeth with toothpaste as long as I do. So we have to really keep up with the standard of hygiene that our society demands. Otherwise, we are the ones who will not spread deen. People will think we're dirty, okay? Going on, there was a question, brother. This is a good question. So, if it is a bandage if it is a plaster or a band-aid for a cut that is not healed, you can keep it over. Okay, we're going to talk, there's a whole chapter about that. But if it's a healed thing and for no reason it's on, like somebody has a sticker on their hand, no, you got to remove that sticker and you got to get underneath. And if there's the glue from that bandage and you don't need it, you got to take it off, Same with, if you are, this is why they say with nail polish, you remove it. If you have like a paint on your hand, then you try to remove it from before. Otherwise, it's not touching the entire body, right? Okay, continuing with the sunnah. So you start with your Bismillah intention, you do your hands, then you do the private part, front and back. Then any filth on the body, you wash that off. And then in the sunnah, you make wudu. Okay, so you make a wudu. Now you can do this in the bathtub or you can do this in the shower. Okay, and then when you make the wudu, then afterwards, if you're doing a bucket and like a lota kind of a thing, then you do 3 times over your entire body. Okay, that's the sunnah. So you start with your head 3 times. Now in our day and age, most people are doing showers. But if you do a bucket bath, mashallah, may Allah bless you. But if most people are doing showers, then how do you know 3 times? What they say, the ulama says, you stand there for enough times as though you did 3 times, and then that's enough. Okay, so these days shower takes care of everything. There are some people who have OCD, and they think, oh, my hair is very thick, I need to stand there for 10 minutes, otherwise the water didn't reach. Trust me, when water is falling down like that, it has to reach. At most, you spread it once, okay? Between your buttocks, here, there. One time you can touch it, no problem. But you don't get obsessive. There was a man who came to Sheikh Ibn al-Jawzi, and he said, oh Sheikh, I put my hand inside a bucket of water completely, submerge it, and I bring it out, and I still feel like water did not touch everywhere on my skin. And he said, oh, don't worry, he said, go, you don't even have to pray. And he said, why don't I have to pray? He said, because you're crazy. If you think that you put yourself under a shower for even 5 minutes and you're not wet and you did it once, then it means that you have OCD. And he actually felt you're not even liable to pray because you are, he's being obviously, it's hyperbole, it's not literal. Now, any other questions about? We'll continue with the sunnah. Let me see anything else in the notes here. They say that if you're going to say the Bismillah, you should do it before you reveal your nakedness. So you notice here they didn't put Bismillah in the sunnah. Like wudu, they put Bismillah and then in the intention Bismillah. But here they didn't put Bismillah. Why? Because you should not be saying the dhikr while you're in a naked state, ideally. If you did it, it's not haram. So what they do is you say Bismillah as you start to take your clothes off, and then you make an intention like that, right? Any questions? Yes. Yes. Okay, this is a good question. So, if a person is coming out of janaba, or if they're coming out of menstrual period, then they have to wash every single strand of hair and to the roots. Okay, so you can't say, like, for example, oh, I have to go to work. It's going to take so long to blow dry my hair. I'm just going to put a little bit of water like this and go. You can't do that. If you say it's kind of cold, or if you say, look, if I come outside during sehri with wet hair, my in-laws are going to know what happened. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to wet my hair. You can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that, right? You have to wet the entire hair. The only exception is this, that if you make a braid in your hair, and by braid, I don't mean it has to be some fancy French braid or something. You just take your hair and you just literally just tie, like twist it up. And then you put something on it, so it's like a separate body if you have long hair. And then you can just wash your scalp, and you don't need to wash the body of the hair. So for women with long hair, for women for whom it's cold, for women who already have their hair in a braid and it's annoying to take it out, like, sometimes some cultures of women, they have their entire hair braided, right? It's very common in Caribbean cultures. The entire hair is always braided, right? So in this type of a person, only for women, not for men, for women, they can put the hair outside of the shower and just make sure the water reaches the roots of the scalp and they don't have to wet the body of the hair. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about that? Follow up? Yes. To have what? No. So you just have to do the ghusl. You don't have to intend the ghusl, you just do it. So because wudu and ghusl are not acts of worship in themselves, they're preparations. So you don't need to have an intention to do it. Just like you don't have an intention to put on your clothes to pray. Like if I want to pray, I have to cover myself. Do I have to intend when I put on my clothes, I'm going to pray in these clothes? No, I just put it on. No, you don't have to say, this is the ghusl of janaba and this is the ghusl of this. And no, you don't have to say Friday ghusl. You can do it if you want to, but you don't have to do it. So this makes it very easy. Take a shower. Okay, go take a shower. Somebody asked, they said, I don't understand. What is the difference between taking a shower and ghusl? Then the Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi, he said, do you ever take a bath? Do you ever take a shower? He goes, yeah. He goes, good. Now do it for Allah. Meaning like you know already you're doing it for Allah's sake. You don't need to make a special thing. But yes, it's sunnah to be conscious of it. Why? Because when you're conscious of something, it becomes a spiritual act. If you're just showering every day out of habit, it might be a ghusl, but it's no longer a rewarding act because you didn't even think about it. Okay? Yeah. So you do the wudu 3 times, and then you pour water over your head 3 times. But if it's showering, then you just like wait a little while until 3 would have come. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? And that's the different ways of doing it. So one style says 3 times pouring over your head. Another style says, pour over the right side, let it all go down, then pour it over the left side, let it all go down, then once over the top. There's different ways of doing the sunnah, but the thing is that's assuming you're using a container. That's not assuming that you're in a shower. And most people bathe in a shower, right? But some people may bathe with a bucket and what do you call it? A mug, yes, a mug. I'm trying to translate the word in my mind. So, what's that? Yeah, like a mug or a container or a bottle. So the thing is that this is what you have to do. Even if you don't do it like the right way, it's all fine. Because even if you just go in there and you take just a normal shower, like a non-Muslim takes a shower, that's a ghusl. This is sunnah. No, but the water is going on the whole body, right? Yeah. So when you're pouring like this, and it's all coming down. Now this is so when we mean over the head, we don't just mean head and don't wash your thigh. It means the water is coming down your body. And this is why, if it's not enough, then you can pour water here, pour water there. In other words, it's not strict. It's just how the Prophet ﷺ used to do it. You don't have to at all. But if you want to move the water along, like in a normal shower, what do people do? They go like this, you know what I mean? Yeah, just be natural. Be natural. Like be natural. The more you're like stuck in your head about things, the less natural it becomes. Yeah. So I mean, whichever way you do it is fine. And by the way, another place where people get waswasa. So they think that water has to actually directly hit every part of their body in a shower, or they think, for example, let's say, for example, someone has like vomit over here. So the water comes, now the vomit is going down. So they think, oh, all this is going to be dirty. This is OCD. Once the water hits your body, you don't keep track of where it goes. It's pure. Don't worry. When it's flowing, it's pure. So in other words, people who are washing their private parts, yes, of course, that blood, the feces, whatever, is going to go down. But it doesn't mean that it's all dirty now. This is a fear of najasa. We don't have fear of impurity. Once you wash, you consider that it's gone. Also in the drain, people get like, oh, the bottom is dirty. No, once water is flowing, you just assume it's pure and that's it. Even if you washed something very dirty, right? Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, this is a very, very, very good question. If you're in the middle of your ghusl, let's say, for example, someone's started to wash their head. Or let's say they washed their body, but they didn't wash their head yet. So the shower is there, they're starting to go like this, and then gas escapes, urine escapes, a little bit of sexual fluid still is escaping. Okay? What happens then? Let me ask you guys, what happens then? You know what? You don't have to start over. You just wash that area, you just wash, and you continue. And once you wet the last area of your body, the entire body gets ghusl and wudu automatically. Even though you interrupted it with a passing of gas or a passing of liquid. So it's very interesting. It's kind of like a force field around you. I don't know how to explain this. Once that last part of your body gets touched and wet, and you've done your nose, mouth, and body, the entire body, no matter what happened before, has wudu and ghusl. So even if you peed in the middle. Let's say somebody was washing their hair, oh man, I gotta go to the bathroom. So they step out, they go use the toilet, and then they come back and they continue. Actually, you don't have to remake wudu or restart ghusl. It's fine. Because ghusl is broken only by what? By ejaculation, okay? And anything less than that, urination, vomit, anything else, blood, is a lesser form of breaking. It doesn't break your ghusl. No, you don't. No, in the other schools, you have to make wudu again. In our school, no. Once you complete your ghusl, you have wudu as well. And then you broke it? Yes. Let's say like you finish washing your whole body, meaning mouth, nose, body. Then gas escapes, now you just have to make wudu again. So your ghusl is now complete. Now you broke your wudu. No, so if you break your wudu in the middle of ghusl, and then you can carry on your ghusl, then once your ghusl is complete, you have wudu automatically, even though you technically broke it in between. It's kind of a trick, right? No, you don't have to if you did it in the middle of your ghusl. But if you did it at the end of your ghusl, then you have to make wudu again. Okay, so ghusl is the greater thing. Ghusl is the greater thing. When you have ghusl and you make it, it covers everything, even the smaller one, which is wudu. Okay? But if you finished your ghusl and you break your wudu, you just have to make your wudu again. Okay? Ghusl is only broken through intercourse, ejaculation, menstruation, and wudu is broken by all the little things, gas and urine and vomiting and this type of thing. Okay, ghusl is of three types. There's times where ghusl is fard, like you must take a bath. There's times where ghusl is wajib, meaning it's almost fard. It's basically the same thing. And there's times where ghusl is recommended. So when is it fard to take ghusl? Like you have to take a bath. Number one, at the emission of sexual fluid from the men or women that leaves the body with pleasure, meaning there's ejaculation, orgasm, something like this. If a fluid comes out before orgasm or shy of orgasm, that is not breaking ghusl. Okay? So there is a pre-sexual fluid that occurs for men and women when they are aroused. That does not take a ghusl, even if it's a lot. The only thing that triggers the ghusl is after the climax and the resulting whatever comes out after that, then. And it has to be a complete climax. It can't just be, it's not just that the person was aroused. So people get a lot of OCD about this as well. Sometimes they're walking around and they think, oh no, I was aroused. A lot of sisters get this. Oh, I felt aroused. I felt a little bit, some moisture down there. I think I have to take a ghusl. No, you don't have to take a ghusl. It's not a full climax, okay? The other thing is, some people wake up and they think, oh no, look, something is on my undergarment. So maybe I had a wet dream. If you don't remember that you had a dream, and it's not indicative that it was a lot that came out, you're not sure, you do not go and take a shower if it's most likely not that. It's different if you remember a dream and you wake up and you find something there, then yes, of course, you take the bath, right? The ghusl. Because that's a nocturnal emission, a wet dream. Next thing is, ghusl is fard at the disappearance of the male private part into the female private part, okay? Or into the anus of a living human being. Now, this does not mean it's okay to do this. Understand one thing. Sometimes in fiqh, you will hear disgusting things. It's a legal question. We're not talking about ethical or moral, okay? So they have had questions. If someone has intercourse with an animal, do they have to take ghusl? This is disgusting. It is completely haram. Homosexuality, completely haram. It does not mean, but it's still a fiqh question that they dealt with. Okay, so once the male private part is penetrated into the female front or back or the male back, then there is a ghusl if the person was of an age where they are considered like sexual beings, meaning they're older. Okay. Now, next is the end of menstruation or postnatal bleeding. So a woman gives birth, she bleeds for 15 days, she stops. It is fard for her to take a ghusl and start praying and fasting. A woman's period goes for 8 days and it ends. It is fard for her to go take a ghusl. So for what happens, for example, if her period ends at 4 o'clock and the prayer time, Asr, is going to end at 8 o'clock. Okay? It is therefore fard for her to take the ghusl and pray before 8 o'clock. Okay? But she cannot say, oh, I'm at a party right now. I just want to stay in the period, so I can take ghusl whenever it's convenient to me. That's not the case. Now, what do you do if you're at work or at school or you're out and you can't take a bath? Because in the olden days, maybe you could just go quickly somewhere home or something and take a bath. What do you do? And in the olden days, the scholars used to kind of emphasize like a woman should go home and take a bath. But now, women are outside, and we're going to talk about this as well. You're outside all over the place. You may find that your period ends and you're outside of the house, or your daughter, it happens to your daughter, and you can't take her back home. She's at school. We will talk about what to do, inshallah, in a little bit. Okay, next thing is, it is wajib for someone who becomes Muslim in a state of major ritual impurity, okay, to take a ghusl. So in other words, if a non-Muslim is in a state of janaba and they have not taken a bath and then they become Muslim, they should take a bath. I remember when I first took my shahada, the Maulana Saab, he asked me, did you take a bath today? Before I took my shahada. And I lied and I said yes. And I didn't do it, right? But as a Hindu, it's like really embarrassing if you don't take a bath every day, right? So he was just asking for this ruling, like, you know, if you're coming in janaba, then you should take a bath after you accept Islam, okay? But if the person already took a bath, then you don't have to do it. That's why he was asking me, okay? So, yeah, so this is just something, you know. Oftentimes when people say, okay, I'm going to take my shahada, they tell people, okay, you know, in the morning, take a bath, come to the masjid, you know, in a nice state, you know. Next thing, number 3, when is it nafil to take a ghusl? Meaning it is virtuous. Number 2, for the Friday prayer. Now, this is the question. Is it for the day of Friday or is it for the prayer? Which one? Day of Friday or for the prayer? There's a difference of opinion. Imam Abu Hanifa said it's for the prayer itself. Because what would happen? People would work in the field, they would work in the desert, they get sweaty. They don't have a chance to bathe every day. So can you imagine in heat, without deodorant, working for 6 days? And you've never washed yourself, okay? You smell. Now, if you put 100 of those people together in the summer, in the heat of Jummah, into one thing, the place is going to smell really bad. So the ghusl is a practical thing. And Imam Abu Hanifa said, look, you should take a bath before you go to the actual Jummah. right? It's not just for the day of Jummah, it's for the fact that you're gathering at Jummah. And therefore, any time you gather together for the Eid prayers, for something else, in fact, any gathering, Imam Abu Hanifa said it's good to take a bath, as long so you don't smell. Now, other scholars, they said, no, it's any time on Friday after Fajr. So if Thursday night you took a bath, that doesn't count for Jummah. Even though it's Jummarat, even though it's Friday night, in Thursday night is Jummah night, it doesn't count for the ghusl for the next day. Yeah, so you say, okay, Thursday night I'm taking a bath, so that counts as my Jummah. It doesn't count. I know, so it doesn't count. But it's okay because it's not fard, it's just sunnah. It's just sunnah. So it has to be after Fajr. Okay, so what some people may do, for example, if they wake up in janaba, if they're married people, they wake up in janaba after Fajr, then they take their ghusl of the janaba and they count that as their Friday ghusl as well in one shot. You don't have to do two different ones. Now, so this is why though for the Hanafis, they delay the ghusl until before they have to go to the masjid. But these days, many times you go to work much earlier than you go to Jummah, than you go to work in your break. So in this case, yes, before you go, to work, take the shower in the morning, and then even though wudu breaks, you just make the wudu again. This is what you would have to do. Okay. Also, it's nafil to take on the Eid prayers, take a bath and go. Before you put on the ihram, it's sunnah to take a bath, or nafil to take a bath. On the day of Arafah, it is good to take a bath. Meaning, let me just see here, on a day when because people will be gathering together. 91, yes, and that means for those in Hajj. Now, if a woman is not going to Jummah prayer, for example, actually she doesn't have to take a bath. She never has to anyways. It's always sunnah for everybody. But it's the sunnah, particularly when you're going to go to the Jummah. But if you still want to get reward for Jummah day, you can still take a bath on that day. When you're entering Medina, before you enter Medina, it's good to take a bath. So let's say, for example, you're taking a taxi or the train from Mecca to Medina. It's good before you leave Mecca, take a ghusl, be clean, and present yourself to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in a clean state. And when you're visiting the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So you're in your hotel, you're staying across from let's say, close to the Masjid Nabawi. You say, okay, I'm going to go visit the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm going to take a bath and then go, right? You don't have to. It's just nice. Now, ghusl is not necessary after the following things. It is not necessary after the exit of madhi or wadi. What are those two things? Madhi is pre-sexual fluid. It's not semen. It's not what happens after the climax for the woman. It's what happens before, when a person is aroused and their body is getting ready. That is not, you don't need to have ghusl from it. Okay, it is impure. So you should try not to get it on your clothes. And if you do get a little bit, it's forgiven. But, if it's a lot, you should wash it off. But the reality is that it is not, it's not something you may ghusl for. And wadi is something that men experience. It is a prostate fluid. So after urination, for some men, after they urinate, a kind of gray, cloudy liquid may come out after urination. This is excess prostate fluid, and this does not require a ghusl. You just can wash that away, and that breaks wudu, that's it. Next thing, a ghusl is not necessary if you wake up from a wet dream and you find no wetness. So I could swear in the dream, I did all these things in the dream, but I'm completely dry. You don't have to take a ghusl. Now, one thing that has caused a lot of fitna in our times, for men and women, is in the old times, people just used to have a very, very rough cloth and they wrap it around themselves. So they couldn't constantly keep checking if something's coming out. Okay, because it would just, if a drop came out, it would just mix in the clothing and you're walking and you don't feel it. Nowadays, people purposely buy black underwear to just see, is it marks coming? Is something coming out? And they're constantly checking. This is waswasa. If you're constantly running to the bathroom and going, okay, this is waswasa. This is not from Islam. Okay, so you don't have to keep looking, keep checking, keep getting scared. In fact, this is why the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was after you make wudu, like you make istinja, you go to the bathroom, you make istinja. you make wudu. You know what he would do? Take a little bit of water and open his izar or his pants and sprinkle like this. Why do you think he did that? Why do you take some on your underwear, on the inside of your underwear, sprinkle water like this? Just light, not a lot. Just like take a little bit like that, randomly. Why? What? How? How does it remove waswasa? How? Urine or not, yeah, because a lot of people, men, mostly men, but maybe women too, I don't know. A lot of people get a drop of urine coming here and there. And now they're checking constantly and they're, oh, I don't know if I broke my wudu or I didn't. But if you sprinkle water, then all you do is you tell yourself, that's just the water. Who cares? Keep walking. So you're not constantly checking. In other words, it's a way of tricking your mind to not keep checking. Now, this is an interesting thing, but could it possibly be a drop of urine? It could. So what does that tell you? Just keep going. What does that actually tell you? Yes, but what does that also tell you about the mentality of Islamic law? What does that tell you about the mentality of the Sunnah? It's not that strict. It's not microscopically going to, make it impossible for you. And this is part of the problem that we get into. Sometimes people learn the deen and they go crazy with it. So, they're in the middle of Irvine spectrum and you felt a little bit of liquid come out. Now you want to pray, so you go there. How are you going to wash your underwear in the middle of Irvine spectrum? What are you going to do? There's no hose, there's no nothing, and then you might make a big mess and you wet yourself. So Islam is not designed to keep people just running from the bathroom to change their clothes all the time and make it impossible. Do you see what I'm saying? This is something to really emphasize because a lot of people have OCD on this. Next thing, the insertion of a finger or the like into the vagina does not necessitate ghusl. Okay, so that means, for example, a lady goes for an exam, like a pap smear or some type of, where they have a, what do they call it? Forget the instrument they call it. For example, as well, a lady who's pregnant, sometimes the ultrasound can be a vaginal ultrasound, and something gets inserted inside the vagina. It's a tool. It is, or even a finger for some reason or another. It does not necessitate ghusl. Okay. Now, I'm sorry I have to mention this. Intercourse with an animal without the emission of sperm does not necessitate ghusl. Again, the ulama, listen, the reason why these details are written there is because the ulama had to write every single possible thing that could happen. It does not mean that you should do it, of course. It's completely haram. But it does tell you one thing, that over 1,000 years of Q&A, these issues were coming up. So in fiqh, you will be very disturbed sometimes at some of the things that you hear because it's happened in society sometime or another. So they said, okay, they had to say this happened, this happened, this happened. Okay? So forgive me for grossing everybody out. Next question. Any question about ghusl now to wrap up? Yes, go on. Mm-hmm. Yes, so for example, the exit of madhi or wadi breaks wudu. Okay, but having a wet dream thing, no. Insertion of a finger or like into the vagina, I have to double check that. I think there might be a difference of opinion on that. And intercourse with an animal without the emission of sperm, because pre-sexual fluid will come out, it will break wudu, right? So there's a nuance to that. Okay, now, yes? Yes. So this is another thing. I got this question once. I went to teach in India, and somebody said that to me. They said this question to me, and I couldn't understand why. Why are you saying this? They said, "Kya thair ke naha sakte hain?" I'm like, "What do you mean thair ke?" I mean, like khade hoke, like stand up, okay? And I didn't understand Urdu that well, so I said, "Why? Why is that a problem?" They said, "Oh, because our local scholars say you should sit down and take a ghusl." Now, I want you to imagine if it was a time before bathrooms and you just put up a cloth like this to shield yourself and you're taking a bath inside your house, there's no like bathroom. You're just taking a bath in the corner of your room, and it's going to go inside the dirt. So naturally, if you're standing up, your nakedness is more exposed. So they would tie a cloth like this, and you would duck down, and you would go like this. You understand? Or same thing, sometimes the bathrooms have like windows, like an exhaust window. And if you're standing up, somebody could walk by and see somebody standing in the shower. So then they say to women, especially men, duck down and do it like that. But there's no requirement that you have to do that. In a shower, you're standing, basically. Does that make sense? It's very good to test this, because when it comes from one culture to another culture, sometimes we carry over something from that became part of the fiqh of that culture, and we bring it in here. So that's a very good question. Now it's almost time for Maghrib, so we will take a break, inshallah. And let's try to get back to try to wrap up, inshallah, purification. Jazakallah khairan. Food is in the cafeteria. Food is in the cafeteria for those who ordered. Chai will be outside. Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استووا استقيموا واعتدلوا تراصوا تناظروا الله أكبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إن الأبرار لفي نعيم وإن الفجار لفي جحيم يصلونها يوم الدين وما هم عنها بغائبين وما أدراك ما يوم الدين ثم ما أدراك ما يوم الدين يوم لا تملك نفس لنفس شيئا والأمر يومئذ لله الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله استغفر الله
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you all may know, alhamdulillah, we are doing our fiqh intensive. We are towards the end of the purification chapter. We dealt with ghusl. We are going to now do tayammum. We're going to do wiping over socks. We're going to do purifying clothing. Inshallah, between Maghrib and Isha in the ladies' musalla, everyone can join, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Are we ready, inshallah? Okay, we've got a lot to cover. And we're not going fast enough, so I have to go faster. But the main thing is to understand, right? This is one of the main things. You know, one of the brothers, he brought up something a good point, which we will discuss as well. He said, you know, when your prayer breaks, when your wudu breaks and you're in the middle of prayer, and I love people asking questions because it brings out their previous understanding, so we can correct it. He said, you know, when the prayer breaks, I thought as long as you go outside and just wash your face, you can come back into the prayer. And I said, no, you have to make the wudu completely again. And he said, so you have to do the nose and the mouth, everything again? I said, no. This is why the fard that we learned, that's why it's very useful to know. You see what I'm saying? Like you're in the prayer, your wudu breaks, you have to walk out. You cannot keep praying. You cannot say, oh, people are going to know I farted. It's going to be so embarrassing. Allah comes first. Allah comes first. So what? Everybody has to pass gas and break their prayer sometime, okay? The prayer, it's already broken by you passing gas. So it doesn't mean you're now breaking the prayer. It's already done. You're not doing anything. So you're not supposed to go along with the motions. You're supposed to exit. Now, if you make a full sunnah wudu, you might miss coming back. But if you make a quick wudu, fard wudu, you can make it back and join the end of the prayer. Okay. Another sister asked, just 1 second. Another sister asked that, is it true in our culture we heard that if you take off your clothing that you break your wudu? I said, no, this is not true. Even if you take but at least your undergarments. No, not even undergarments. Even if a person was completely undressed, does not affect their wudu in the least. They still have wudu. One more question, then we're going to go. Yes. This is a very, very good question. So there is a position that you can do what they call bina, means if you're in the prayer and you break your wudu and you go outside, don't talk to anybody, and you do not reveal your nakedness, meaning you don't like go to the bathroom or something, you just don't talk to anybody, you go wudu and you join back in the prayer, you can actually do this and you don't have to make up. But that, yes, there is a position that allows this. That's called bina. However, that can greatly confuse a lot of people because, you know, they're not sure. Are they making it? So a lot of, and then sometimes you talk when you're on your way out. You might say salams to somebody. You might not go directly to the place. You might take a little bit. So, you know, it's not a very. I've never seen anybody practice it. Usually, you just start again. And then you make up what you missed. And we're going to talk about how to make it up. Okay. Dry ablution, tayammum. Tayammum, it means to make purification with something from the earth. Okay? So it's something from the earth, meaning something that cannot melt or burn. Like what? What cannot melt or burn? Like stones cannot, sand cannot, okay? And anything derived from those things, even dust, does not melt, it doesn't burn like wood, so even dust, you can make tayammum with it. Yes, so what does this mean? This means if I don't have water, so for example, tayammum is permissible when there is a valid excuse, such as water being 1.16 miles, 1 Hashimi mile away. So let's say, for example, you're camping and you don't have any water to make wudu. The nearest water you know is going to be more than a mile away, like a mile and a bit away. You can just go and make tayammum, which means, and we're going to talk about what that means. Or it could be extremely cold. Okay, you're out on a camping trip, you're out on a skiing trip, you're out and you're driving in the middle of a blizzard. Obviously it doesn't happen here much, but you could. Maybe you're up in Big Bear or something, or Mammoth or something, and it's just very cold. And you think, you're afraid, if I make wudu with this water now, this is going to make me sick. I will not be able to take this. Or, for example, your water heater stops working, it breaks down. And you say, well, honey, I called the guy, he's going to come tomorrow from the gas company. Until then, our water heater is not working, and it's winter, and it's extreme cold, like to the point where you believe if you use this water, you will get sick, some harm will come to you. Then you make tayammum. Not just if you're uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm going to be so uncomfortable. No. Now, sometimes wudu is more bearable with cold water, but sometimes the water heater breaks down, the pilot light goes out, and you have to take a ghusl. Now what? Now this is where it's going to be too cold to take a ghusl sometimes with that water. We're not used to it. You're afraid it's going to shock your system. You're going to get a cold. You have to wet your hair, something like this. There, you make tayammum. Sickness. You have a cold. You have the flu. Okay? Taking a ghusl in that situation might increase your sickness. It might delay your, you feel that sickness coming on or you're in the middle of it. It's okay. Same thing with you have a cold and you should I make wudu? It's like I'm just so sick I can't do it for whatever reason. Now, it should be that this sickness is based on either a medical opinion from a Muslim doctor, who is religious, or your past experience tells you, or you have a clear and obvious sign. So, for example, you're so sick that if I do it with water, for example, like I have a high fever, that's a sign. Maybe it's not good for you. I don't know. Doctor can tell me. Or you have a past experience, Like if I use water, my whole arm will flare up in eczema or something, right? Then if a doctor can tell you, it's not really, you should not be touching water on your skin at all, for example, tayammum, right? Because it's a sickness. So even if you fear it, and you know for sure, it didn't come on yet, you can still make tayammum. Yes? That's a very good question. Yes, tayammum can take the place of wudu and ghusl. So for example, you're out, you're sleeping over in the masjid, or maybe not the masjid, but you're camping out somewhere. Overnight, you have a wet dream. Now you don't know what to do. You need to take a bath, but for the next mile, you're not going to see a lake. You're not going to see anything. There's no tap. You go like this and you pray. Right? You make your tayammum. I'll show you how to do it, and you can pray. So even if it's for major impurity or minor, wudu and ghusl both. Okay? Now, also you can do tayammum if you have wounds on most of your body. May Allah save us from that. But this also includes burns. This includes, rashes, or this includes eczema or whatever it is. If it's like most of your body is covered in those things, then you can make tayammum. Okay? Fear of thirst. You're like, I only have this bottle left. Should I take a bath or should I drink it for the next, 5 miles I have to walk? So you may have to, and in that case, subhanAllah, in the books of fiqh, they even mention if a person only has enough, they're going on a journey, they only have enough water for their coffee or for their wudu. Then even if there's something that you need, it's necessary, then you can make tayammum and save this water for your necessities, for your eating, for example. Or there is fear of an enemy or a wild beast, for example, like there's a well and there's soldiers from like there's a gang or something that's going to attack you. There's times where you're afraid of a wild animal or something. So for example, like you're parked in a dark parking lot, and the bathroom is in the back of this place, and you're not just scared, but you have a real reason to actually fear harm. Okay? Not just, I'm kind of scared, but just like you have a real reason. There's an enemy there. There's a wild dog that's running around there. Then you can make tayammum. Also, the water, they forgot to mention here, what if the water is contaminated? So someone told me yesterday that they went to a place in Japan for a vacation a few years ago, and that was the place where the nuclear reactor accident happened. And they took, I think it's called a gaggometer or something, and they tested the water when they went from tourism, and it was contaminated with radioactivity. So you take a shower in that water. So I said, what did you do? He said, the whole week we were there, we did not use the tap water, and I had to take a bath through buying a bottle of water, and I took a bath like that. So in this case, you don't have to say like it's radioactive water or E. coli bacteria in the water. You don't have to risk your health, and say Bismillah and just do it. No, this is not safe water. It's contaminated. It's something's wrong with it. Lack of apparatus. You have nothing to take the water out of the well. In other words, if there's some reason you cannot access the water, the supermarket is closed and you cannot buy a bottle of water. Or the guy says, I'll sell it to you, but I'm going to sell this to you for $10. You don't have to buy it if it's ripping you off. You just make tayammum. Yeah, when you go to the airport and the one bottle of water is like $8 or something, Technically speaking, that's what they call in Arabic ghubn fahish. It means it is just call it a ripoff, okay? Just call it a ripoff. And so if this bottle of water is normally $2-3, $5, $6, $4, $5, $6, okay, whatever. Once it gets to like beyond the value, double the value, triple the value, no, you don't just have to pay any amount. You just pay tayammum. Same thing. Let me see. Is there anything else? There is even in fiqh that in some cultures to ask someone something is considered a big aib. It's considered a big you don't like to ask. So you're afraid the person is going to say no. You're traveling with somebody and they have water and you want to say, hey, can I borrow your water? But you're afraid they'll say no and you'll feel rejected. In that case, it's not your water and you think the guy's not going to say yes. Do I have to go begging everybody for water? No, you don't have water, you just make tayammum. But if it's like your dad, your brother, you know they're going to do it, that's different. Okay, next thing. If you fear that you're going to miss janazah, funeral prayer, or Eid prayer, you get all the way to the Eid Musalla in, you go to the Angel Stadium and they're performing Eid Salah in Angel Stadium. And as you're going there, your wudu breaks. Oh, come on, what do? This is where if you fear that you're going to miss janazah or Eid prayer, you can quickly find a patch of dirt. Tayammum. Why only for Eid prayer and janazah? Why only Eid prayer and janazah? Tell me. Yes. There's no making it up. You can for Jummah you can pray Dhuhr. For any other prayer you can do qada. There's other prayers where it's not even like Taraweeh. If you miss it, you miss it. But janazah you cannot make it up, and Eid prayer you do not make it up, right? So you can even make tayammum. That's if your wudu is nullified and making it again, you would miss it. But if you have a chance to do it, you have to do it. Okay. If one forgets that he has water in his car, I'm going to translate in modern terms, not caravan. If one forgets that they have water in their car and they perform tayammum, you do not have to make up the prayers after you remember. So let's say, for example, you stop the car, you're like, oh, I'm in the highway, there's no rest station for the next mile. I need to pray, my time is running out. I don't have water in the car. I pray. Then as soon as I finish praying, I put my prayer mat in the trunk and I see a bottle of water was right there. Do I have to now make wudu and pray again? No. Because you did it on the initial understanding that I don't have water, so actually it's a big mercy. You do not have to make up the prayer, okay? As long as you really didn't know. Not like, I'm not going to check, okay? You see, you really thought, I really don't have any water, okay? Same thing with the Qibla, for example. We will get to this. For example, you're not facing the Qibla, when you prayed, you didn't know. But you tried to determine it. You thought you were right, but you made a mistake. Forgiven. Okay? If you didn't know. And you tried. Tayammum may be performed with any pure substance, such as dirt, sand, kohol, antimony, limestone, stone, dust, even the dust on your clothing. In other words, you can go on your marble countertop, your granite countertop, your tiles, once they are actual stone, and you can just go and use that for tayammum, okay? My teacher, he mentioned as well that he always carries a stone when he's traveling, like a nice smooth rock. So then, in case, I don't know how this would happen, but let's say, for example, someone's on a plane and they get a wet dream. On a plane, they fall asleep on a plane, they get a wet dream. Where are you going to take a bath? And you don't have access to like a premium lounge or something like that with a shower. You're not on the A380 Emirates first class where you have, So you take that stone, you roll it around in your hands, and that counts because it's part of the earth. Okay, but it's not wood. It can be dirt, dust, stone, something like this. What I do is I keep my ring that has a rock on it, a stone, and I just rub it all over my hands. I can do that, my ring, because it has a stone on it, so I can do that. That's a trick. Yeah, aqiq, yeah, because it has a large ring that I can actually rub it, and so technically speaking, it achieves it. Now, when a Muslim intends to remove a state of ritual impurity, so here's the thing, for tayammum, do you have to have intention, yes or no? You do. And the reason is because water is in its nature purifying. But tayammum is not the primary way of purifying yourself. It is a replacement. Okay? So you have to intend that you are actually making tayammum. You can't say, oh, I rolled around in the dust by accident, so I already have tayammum. No. So what you do, and in fact, this is why tayammum, it means to have that such an intention. Okay, so you can also make tayammum, like for example, to touch the Quran. You want to touch the Quran, you don't have wudu, you know, you don't have water, you can do it. So for any reason that you pray or touching Quran, you can make tayammum. Okay. Now, when you make tayammum, what do? I'm going to explain this. You take your hands, you make an intention, and you hit the surface, right? And then you wipe your face completely. Again, don't get all technical, you know what I mean. You just wipe your face completely, okay? Then you strike again, and you do your arms, including your elbows, completely. Like this. Done. So easy. Face and arms, including the elbows. Okay, you're just going like this. On the actual skin itself, like this, okay? So when you put your hand on the dirt like this, it's actually sunnah to go like this. But you don't like, and then afterwards you can brush off the dirt. So for example, if there's dirt on your face, afterwards you can go like this. The point is not to get dirty. The point is just that you're using Allah's earth to ask for purification from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Once. So you do, or yeah, you can actually just even just strike it once, right? Technically. And then you go like this. No, feet are not included. No, hair is not included. Face and arms. That's it, okay? There's other madhabs where it's face and hands alone, but we're on the Hanafi school, it's arms, including the elbows. Yes? No. So for example, let's say a person is traveling on the plane and they get a wet dream. Okay? Now they have to take a ghusl, but they're on a plane. Are you allowed to use that much water on a plane? We don't have the permission to take a bath, okay? So please don't someone get religious and start taking a bath in the airplane bathroom. No, you know, some Muslims think it's my deen, I don't care. Kuffar can go wherever, you know, then this is not right. And so so you cannot take a full bath, but then I can take wudu. So why don't I just do wudu? No, you can't, because you don't have ghusl. So you cannot do wudu if you do not have ghusl. Okay. So what you would do is tayammum takes the place of ghusl and wudu. And once you have tayammum, you can perform as many prayers as you like. You can pray as many prayers as you like, fard, nafil, sunnah, until you break wudu. And then you make your tayammum again. So the same thing that breaks wudu breaks tayammum. So you make tayammum, then you pass gas. Just make tayammum again. Easy, right? Now, if it happens that you end up finding water enough to take a bath, and you can take a bath, then your tayammum breaks. Just by the mere ability to use water. The ability to access or use water, tayammum breaks. So for example, you have tayammum and you're hiking, you've been praying through tayammum, then all of a sudden you see like a stream in front of you. Khalas, your tayammum breaks because you have water in front of you. Now you can make a wudu, for example. Technically speaking, if you need to take a ghusl and you have water in front of you, technically speaking, you would have to take a bath. Now, the problem is we are in modern times, have no idea how to bathe. But that's what people did in the olden days. They didn't have like a tap, water coming out. So yeah, if you have to, I mean, people are not even used to taking wudu from a pond or a stream. But I'll tell you something, if you have not done it in your life, gone to a stream and make a nice wudu, try it. You know, if you go to the beach, you know, when you get in, make your wudu. Because this is the real way people made wudu, right? Just in nature. Now, I know it's very difficult. What do you do? Like, you're in the middle of the beach. No, the beach is easy because you can get inside the water. What do you do when you're in a river, on a river and you're scared? Like, you don't want to go inside. Maybe you can scoop it somewhere else. But honestly, I don't know. There is a debate. If you have nowhere to bathe, like take off the clothes, do you still have to take a shower or not? Right? There's a debate about this. I can research that further if someone needs to know. But yeah, unless someone asks me, I won't research it right now. Yeah. then you miss your prayer and you have nothing to do it with, right? Some people will say if that's called faqid at-tahurain, someone who neither has water nor do they have rock. So for example, someone's in a jail cell and it's like an artificial jail cell. It's not like but even pavement, by the way, and road, you can make tayammum on it because most of it is from rocks. So gravel and stuff, pavement, brick, if it's made from that. But if you have nothing, what do? Some scholars say all you do is that you make the motion of prayer, but you don't recite. You just make the motion of prayer. Why? Just to tell Allah, oh Allah, I would love to pray to you if I could, but I have not been given the means. So I'm not praying, I'm just faking the actions of prayer. Then later on, you do your ghusl when you find time, and then you make up your prayer. Make sense? Okay. Question? Yes. Tayammum? Yes. Now this is what we're going to get to. And this should not be misused for anything, obviously. But for example, we're going to talk about it. A woman's period and a girl's period ends at school. She has the whole day to go. She can't go at lunchtime and go shower. And it's kind of not reasonable to ask her to go to her friend's house. Because actually speaking, there's another hadith that says that a woman should not take out her garments in the house of anybody but her own house. So she doesn't have to go to her friend's house. Her brother's there, her dad's there. Why is she going showering in the bathroom, right? No, because that's asking too much from someone. So no, she makes tayammum and she prays. Even though she just finished her menstruation, she technically needs ghusl. She does tayammum. Now, as soon as she reaches home, tayammum broken. Take a ghusl, but she doesn't need to make up the prayers because she did it on tayammum. Yes, counted, yes. But they don't advertise that position. So in previous generations, ulama, you'll notice that they did not promote this idea. Because first of all, they didn't want to promote women just going around and not being home. You know what I mean? But now it's like a fact of life. Like women are going to be out of the house, they're going to be working, right? So before they used to insist, no, you got to come home. But now it's like, look, they have legitimate reasons to not come home. But this is where like, oh, I'm just going to stay out because I don't want to come. Like, that's not good. If you know it's your period day, it's ending on that day, reasonably try to access home. Some scholars used to say, make sure let her take a day off on the day she thinks her period is going to end. But nowadays, that's impossible. Nowadays, try telling a career woman, you should take the day off. And because what happens if it ends tomorrow? Then what do? Tell your boss, oh, I need to take a shower, so I'm going to stay home. So this is back in those days when it was rare for women to work. You know what I mean? What would you? Exactly, what would you do, right? So I think, alhamdulillah, the solutions are in fiqh, but sometimes culturally they change from time to time. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, you're just right there. In fact, you don't even need to tell people you're doing it. A person could be like, go in the water. Or, done. You don't need to tell people, hey guys, I'm taking a ghusl because I'm in janaba. No, yes? It has to get wet, yeah. So, or like you have to just keep your hijab on and swim. I know women who swim in their hijabs at the beach. They just wear a different type of hijab that you pull over, like the Malaysian style, kind of like that. Yes, sister? We just finished this, but I'll just do very simple. Wet the entire body from head to toe, every single part of your body, and rinse your mouth to the back and rinse your nose to the top. Done. No niyyah, no tartib, no wudu needed. If they don't tie their hair, they have to wash the entire thing, but you could cheat and just right before you get in the shower, take your hair, twist it, put a hair tie on it, and so it's a braid, and then just wash, make sure the hair reaches the roots and not the body of the hair. Okay? But I can't repeat the lesson. If you can watch online, inshallah, yeah. Okay? Yeah. As long as the mouth and the nose is also done to the back, then there's ghusl. It's a normal shower. Normal shower. Okay. Now, where are we? Yep. But remember, the key was you have access to enough water. and permission. So I don't have permission from McDonald's to take a bath with their water. They'll let me do wudu. Like if you ask them, hey, can I have, so you're not expected to go where it's not normal, right? Okay, so then there's a question of like if you have wounds on most of your body or not most of your body. We'll leave that because that's a detail. But one thing you do not do is wash half the body. So if you only have water enough for the face, you don't combine wudu and tayammum. It's either complete tayammum or complete wudu. You don't say, I'll wash my face and then I'll tayammum my hands. Doesn't work like that. So somebody wants to avoid doing one or the other, wetting the thing, you can't do that, right? Okay, let's go to wiping over foot gear. Khufs. Yes. You can, but it is very complicated to do that. Okay, what do I mean? So this question often comes up, a boy has a wet dream or something else. He's too shy to turn on the shower in the middle of the night, or he's staying as a guest. Now he's embarrassed. Okay, husband and wife stay as a guest in some house. Now they're embarrassed, put on the shower in the middle of the night to pray Fajr. What do they do? Okay, so this question will come up sometimes. If they wanted to take a ghusl in a sink, you would still have to make sure water reaches everywhere. But you would just have to do it in such a way that you wash the entire body. How are you going to do that without getting everything wet? That's your problem, right? No, it doesn't have to be flowing water. So for example, a person could, and again, I'm getting theoretical, okay, guys, because people do ask these questions. So, so water in a tap, like you could go, for example, like this, wash your head inside the water, right? You could wash like this up to here. Now, a little bit of water falls off, you can spread it up to here. A little bit of, each limb has to have a little water fall off like this. You could go in the toilet, make istinja of that area. You could put your foot in the sink and then wet it all like this. Now, as long as some flows off, you can wet it the rest of the limb. Okay, as long as some part is washed, you can spread that water. And then what else? What other area would you have to think about? The back. That would be tough. Okay, so maybe you go like this and a little bit of water, and then you go like this. And I mean, you'd have to be really tough. You'd have to be going like this. And how are you going to do the chest? So, I mean, good luck. You can spread a towel on the floor. But guys, it is a real question. Okay, it is a real question. Okay, because I mean, and anybody who's married understands this. Sometimes, okay, you're in a guest room or something, sleeping over at someone's house as a guest, and it happens. Married couple, they need to take ghusl, and then you realize we only have the half bath. We don't have the full bath on our side of the room. So so knock, Fajr time. Someone's knocking on your door, saying, "Can we please use the bathroom down there?" Yes, of course, go ahead, And it's important to, learn about these things as well, because, our own children will come to an age where they will need to take a bath. I know one Syrian sheikh who, when his daughters and his sons became baligh, they would all take a ghusl at Fajr, everybody, just so his son would not feel shy to take a ghusl, so he could make his prayer. Okay, we have to kind of give people a little bit of a blind eye, not ask a child, why did you take a bath? Why were you taking a bath? Like some of these the moms, they're asking questions from embarrassing questions to their son, like, why are you taking a bath in the middle of the night? Come on, let him go. They just don't, because otherwise what you're teaching people is don't pray. You're telling people don't pray. And I've heard of women who are ashamed to take a shower at Sehri, Suhoor, in Ramadan, because my in-laws might know that we did something married people do. So we have to take the kind of the haya should come out of these things and come more into actual haram. Okay, actual haram, Okay, now wiping over foot gear. Both men and, by the way though, subhanallah, there is one position mentioned in the Hanafi books, Imam Abu Yusuf used to say, a person has a wet dream and they're staying as a guest in someone's house, and there's a situation where if they try to do ghusl, they may actually get the host angry because he may be saying, what are you doing in my house? What were you doing? Doing haram in my house or something? You're not here with your wife? So they actually talk about situations where it might be too difficult for a person to reasonably do a ghusl, right? And they do tayammum, but that's not the normal case. We should not be shy to ask use of a bathroom. Now, wiping over khufs. Both men and women may wipe over khufs. Most of the time, sometimes people think only men can do it, not women. This is incorrect. Men and women can both wipe over khufs. What is a khuf, by the way? It is a leather sock. It is an animal skin sock. Now, you can do it while you're traveling, or you can do it while you're home. Okay? You can wipe over, if you want it every single day. You don't want to wash your feet, you just wipe over your socks. You can do it. You don't need an excuse to do it. You can just, it's not considered lazy, it's not considered less religious, it's fine. But there's conditions. Now the khufs must cover both ankles. So some people, you know how they wear the ankle socks? If the ankles are not covered by that sock, you cannot wipe on it. It must cover the ankle entirely. Okay? This is why you cannot wipe over your shoes. But can you wipe over your boots that cover your ankles? Actually, you can. They cover your ankle, and they're generally waterproof. Now, this is the important question. Initially, it used to be only leather socks existed. Then people had what they call the jawrab. The jawrab is the sock in Arabic. And the ulama tried to determine, the Prophet ﷺ, there is one narration where he wiped over socks. But does that mean any sock? Does this mean even like how women have kind of a pantyhose type of material where you can just, it's just, does that mean you can do that? Does it mean you can, so this is what they said. The Hanafi school, they said you can wipe over the sock as long as generally you can walk around with it for a few miles and it stays on the foot. It doesn't it stays on the foot with an elastic, for example. You cannot see the skin right through it. So if I'm looking like this at my sock, I can't see the skin through it. Can I see skin here? No, I can't see the skin. Of course, if I take it and I hold it up to the light, you'll see it. But generally speaking, I don't see the skin. Now, the other thing they mentioned was, they said it has to be waterproof. So here's the key. The Indo-Pak ulama and the Arab ulama, they interpret things differently on this. So the Indo-Pak ulama, they say that it must be waterproof. And so therefore they have like sealskin socks or something like that, right? Which means that even if you dipped your foot in water, the water would not touch your skin. The Arab scholars, Turkish scholars, they say no, the Hanafi madhab is not saying that it has to be completely waterproof. It's when you're wiping it, does the water come through right away, seep right through, because it's so thin? Okay? Based on this difference of interpretation, difference of opinion, which sock is allowed and which sock is not plays out. This is why the Indo-Pak ulama, they say, generally speaking, you can only make wipe on the thick leather socks or like very thick woolen ski socks. You know those ones? Or like sealskin, which is like a hiking sock that's like waterproof. And the Arab ulama, generally speaking, they're going by the text, reading from the text that it's while you're wiping. So in other words, if I was to put a piece of tissue and I put it underneath my sock here, and then I took a wet hand, dripping wet, and I wiped like this, and I took out the tissue. Is the tissue wet? If the tissue is not wet, then you can wipe over that sock. If the sock is so thin that you pull it out and it's wet, it means that that is not fit. Now, that being said, so for example, these socks, I tested it. I was so scared to follow this position because I was trained on the leather sock position for many, many years. And then I saw my Arab teachers, they're like, what? No, as long as it's thick, it's fine. Now, what happened is over the course of time, the production techniques of making socks has improved vastly. So a lot of the Indo-Pak ulama, they used to say that, no, you cannot wipe over normal socks. But that's because perhaps in those countries and those places, socks were very thin. Especially hot countries, socks are very thin. But when you look at the average sports sock right now, actually you can walk for miles and miles and it's not going to get a hole. You can actually wipe over it, probably not going to leak water right through. So a lot of the thicker socks are generally okay. Now, what about wiping over just any sock? this is not allowed in the Shafi'i school, not allowed in the Hanafi school, not allowed in the Maliki school, but the Hanbali school, they said you can wipe over a sock, and they said whatever sock it is. This is why the Hanbali school is generally the one that the Saudi scholars, the Salafi scholars, they generally take from the Saudi school. So those who have studied in Saudi Arabia, Medina, Mecca, they tend to follow that position that any sock is fine. Okay, in other words, difference of opinion. Whichever one you want to follow, you can follow it. Yes. This is what we're going to get to. That's very good. And this is also, in order to be able to wipe over khufs, one must have completed wudu before you nullify it. So you have to have, at least once a day, you have to wash your feet and make full wudu. And then before you break wudu, put on your socks, and then you can wipe over it as much as you want. Okay? So, but it's not a condition that you have to complete the wudu before wearing the khufs, but at least you have to complete the wudu before breaking it, and you have to have the socks on. Well, I don't want to judge people's specific socks, right? Yeah. Look, like I said, I'm wiping over these socks, which are Walmart sports socks, okay? They're not very thick socks, okay? Because I test these. I actually go to Walmart and these places with a little bottle of water because I'm a nerd, and I have tissue and I put my finger in and I go like this so everyone's looking, and then I pull it out and then I say, okay, I can do it. But that's me. That doesn't mean you have to. You can assume if it's a thick, sturdy sock, it's fine. But remember, the Hanbali position, they already say any sock is fine. So how am I going to say to somebody, you cannot take the position of another imam? I can't say that. So Dr. Siddiqui, for example, he'll say sock is fine. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, generally speaking, I gave you the range. Some people say leather, some people say waterproof, some people say thick, some people say any sock. Right? Yeah. When you're wiping it, yeah. Because you're not supposed to wash it, right? Yeah. If it's very thin, like a pantyhose level, then then you're gonna feel it. But if it's even that sock, you might not. Yeah. But that's depending on what position you want to follow. Yes. The Hanbali school, it's more lenient on the socks. Can you follow that position and do your wudu with a different school of thought? Because wudu is almost all the same across the madhabs, so it would be generally fine. Like you can, yeah. The reason why, okay, so scholars were very, very insistent on following one school of thought, but generally speaking, this issue is a big problem for a lot of people. So a lot of scholars are like, khalas, the sock issue, they kind of let it go. The debates still happen, but it's like, leave people alone. Because at the end of the day, not everybody is able to buy thick socks or leather socks. You know what I'm saying? So if you take another position from another school of thought, it's okay. Yeah, this is the thing. The scholars who follow schools of thought, they say you should follow only one. Those who don't follow school of thought say you don't have to follow. So it's extremely confusing sometimes, but the best way to look at it is this. Pick a teacher, follow what they say. And if you follow another teacher sometime, that's okay too. You see what I'm saying? Following the majority is also possible, but then you will realize that you're going to keep getting confused which is the majority, which is the minority. You know, so when you have a teacher, you follow that teacher, it's easy, right? Alhamdulillah, yes.
So on the day of judgment, the body parts that you wash the most are going to shine the most?
Yes.
So if because I do usually just take a shower in the morning and put on socks.
Good.
So I don't fully wash my feet all the time. Would that mean that since my feet aren't always fully washed, then they won't shine as bright?
No, because the Prophet himself used to wipe over socks, so his feet are going to shine, of course, right? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's okay. This is fully allowed. This is not like a lesser way. Wiping over socks is fine completely. Ibrahim? No, there's nothing about tapping your sock. Wiping. So what you do is, how do you wipe your sock? Wiping the sock goes like this, right? So you take water, for example. Okay, just a little bit, for example. Well, let's say I took this much, see, it's wet, okay? One like this, so like this. Let me get the camera here. So you're going like streaks like that. One top, one on the top. You don't have to do up and bottom and the bottom like this. Some people think, oh, well, this is the dirty part, so I'm going to wipe here. No. You wipe the top, top, and at least like 3 fingers like this. Even if I just slapped it like that once, done. But you do it with fresh water. Okay, you don't take the old water from here and then you take a fresh water and you do it. And you don't have to get it so wet that you're putting water through it. That's not what you're supposed to do. Now, if I make my full ghusl or my wudu and I wash my feet once in a day, I put my socks on that I'm going to wipe over. Now, how long can I wipe over those socks? 24 hours. But 24 hours from which point? From the point on which I put them on? Or the point on which I make my wudu? Or the point in which, what? It's from the time you break your wudu first, then you have 24 hours starting. So for example, let's say 8 a.m., I took a full shower, and I come off and I put on my socks and I get dressed, okay? Then I break wudu around 12 p.m. So from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I have wudu. I can now wipe from 12 that day to 12 the next day and keep wiping over those socks as much as I want. Once 12 p.m. comes the next day, I must take off my socks and wash my feet. Let's say 12 p.m. comes the next day, and I have wudu from 11 o'clock. I made wudu, and now 12 p.m. comes. My wudu is suspended. Do I have to repeat my wudu? No, all I have to do is take off my socks, wash my feet, my wudu is complete. Because I already washed the rest of it previously without breaking it. Okay? They understand that? Any question about that? Okay, I'll say it again. When my 24 hours is about to expire, if I'm coming into the 24 hours and I have wudu, I made wudu, but I wiped over my socks. Now it's been 24 hours. Do I have to repeat the wudu again because the time ran out? No. All I have to do now is wash my feet because I already washed my other limbs before. Okay, don't worry. You'll get to, you have to practice it and then you understand. Now, a traveler can have up to 3 days, 72 hours. So a person who's resident, every day they must be washing their feet at least once, okay? Every 24 hours. But a traveler, 72 hours. So let's say you're on layover and then you're flying and then you're on a train. Or let's say you're just staying in a place for less than 10 days, you're a traveler. 3 days, you can keep going. Okay, if you want to keep your socks on for 3 days, that's your choice. Yes?
They say that if you have the wudu like this and if by accident you remove the sock, then what?
Yeah, so if the sock comes out, they say if majority of the foot leaves the sock, then the wiping is broken. Even on one of the feet. But if you just take off your heel, for example, you take out your heel to like scratch it, you can put it back on and you can wipe over, no problem. Right? Okay, what else? But remember, generally speaking, this is only if the sock naturally covers the ankles too. So you cannot use the small mini socks that come, what do they call them? Ankle socks? That come under the ankles. You can't even wipe over those. Yes, question? Okay. If you have wudu, then you take off your sock. Your wudu is kind of like broken, but it's like suspended. All you have to do is wash those feet and it'll continue. So in other words, you have wudu in your whole body except your feet. And when you take off the sock, just wash it and then the wudu will be complete. Okay? Yes? Mm-hmm. No, no. So you cannot make wudu over your shoes. You have to wipe over your sock, but then you can pray in your shoes. So you can pray in your shoes, but you cannot wipe over the shoe. Sometimes I see people doing this, they wipe over the shoes, it's not correct. But boots that cover your ankles, yes. Okay? Question in the back. Yeah. Yes, you do. You can wipe over boots as long as they cover the ankles. So, what's that? If they don't cover the ankles, then you cannot wipe over it because it's not covering the entire foot.
Even the socks, like covering
Yeah, but then wipe over the sock, not the boot. Then take off your boots. So what I do when I'm at work here, when I'm at work, I take off my shoe like this, I wipe on my sock, I put it right back in my shoe. Now I can still pray in those shoes if I want to. Right? But if you wipe over boots and then you take them off, you cannot put them back on unless you wipe on them again. Because you broke it. You get what I'm saying? Yes, question.
Could you, if you had boots, and you wiped over it, and you take off the boots, can you now make wudu over the socks?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Yeah.
One other question. So if there's shoes, like high top shoes, but they're not like tied around your ankle, they're kind of just...
Once you're looking at it and it's covering your ankle, it's fine. It doesn't have to from the top. It can be like a gap. It's fine. Okay. Shall we keep going? Yeah, this is another misconception that we have in the subcontinent. The idea that you can't pray in your shoes. It's actually sunnah to pray in your shoes. Yeah, it's fine. The only reason they don't pray in the masjid with shoes is because we have carpet. But in the olden days, did you know in the olden days, dogs used to come inside the masjid of Medina, in and out. People used to pray in their shoes. Because it was open air. It's open air, so animals could come in and out. People would be praying in their shoes. But as people started to get carpets, they started to take off their shoes. Now, sometimes people will say, oh no, but there might be najasa underneath your shoe. But this is not correct, because if you are walking, as long as you're walking, the earth is considered purifying your shoe. Unless you actually step in something and you know it's that, then take off your shoes. But you don't have to if you don't want to. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to, actually. You don't have to. Yeah. This is more of a kind of a cultural religious habit. But it's not. Yeah. Because sometimes it's just easier. Instead of taking off your shoes, you just pray in the shoes. As long as they're flexible enough, like you can move your toes, right? If you're wearing a steel toe, it's a little different, but yeah. Yes. Yeah, remember we said as long as the majority of the foot is still in the shoe. Oh, you mean for just praying in shoes? Wudu.
So you're wearing a shoe, but it covers your ankle, but when you walk, sometimes your ankle...
Yeah, it's what happens when you're normally standing. Yeah, when you're normally standing. All right, shall we? Yes, one last question. Oh, a very good question. Okay, in fact, that's the next thing. The minimum area you must wipe of each sock is according to the three smallest fingers. So I have to wipe at least this much area on each foot. Okay? The entire area of my three smallest fingers. That's the minimum area. But it's sunnah to do the whole hand. Now, each khuf must be free from holes to the extent that are equivalent to the surface area of a person's three smallest toes. So in other words, some people think that you can't have any hole. This is not true. In other schools of thought, you cannot have any hole. In the Hanafi school of thought, it's actually quite generous. See this area over here of my three toes? Three toes, my three small toes. As long as that area does not have a hole that big, that's a big hole. Yeah, you see the pinky? This one and this one? Right? This is a big area. That's the size of the hole. That once the hole is bigger than that, you cannot wipe over those socks. But once the hole is smaller than that area, and you can, if there's many holes, you can add them up on one foot. As long as it's not bigger, then even a hole is okay. Why? Because obviously socks will get holes in them. So does that mean, like, what are you going to do? Right? Now, if you're walking around with a hole in your sock this big, okay, then it's considered that a lot of your foot is showing. So therefore, you cannot do it. Okay? And what's that question? And by the way, you'll notice that the Hanafi school is actually it's pretty lenient. It has some strictness, but it's not like some of the other schools. They're much stricter. Yes?
Say for the socks, most of the time before the hole comes, like you could see through it.
Yeah, once it was valid to wipe on, then you don't have to check every single time. Like, khalas, you bought valid socks. Don't, yeah. Yes. It doesn't matter. Remember, hygiene and deen sometimes can be two different things. So you could have the smelliest sock in the world. Smelliest sock in the world. and it's perfectly fine to wipe over. Another person has beautiful, clean socks, and they don't qualify. It's possible, right? So, okay, let's see, combined. The sunnah method of wiping each khuf is to begin at the toes. I showed you how to do it like that. Now, the following things invalidate wiping over the khufs. Anything that breaks wudu, obviously breaks your wudu with the khufs as well, okay? If you take one pair of sock off, both of them are invalidated. You have to wash both of your feet. And if the time period expires, unless the 24 hours passes and you fear that if I wash my feet due to extreme cold, I will get sick, then you can keep extending the time. So you're camping, it's sub-zero temperature, you're out in Big Bear or something, 24 hours is over, you're like, oh man, I'm outside, I need to pray, and my 24 hours is up, but I fear extreme cold. You can keep wiping, okay? And if most of the foot leaves the khuf, you must wash the foot. You cannot, it is not valid to wipe a turban, cap, niqab, or gloves. So sometimes women, they do this common, wash the face and then wipe the hijab. Not valid. Okay? Wash the face and wipe over the sleeves because I don't want to show my arms. No, not valid. Remember we said, if you try to hide yourself, but if you're in a place where you have to show your sleeves or pull back your hair a little bit, it's the man's fault for seeing you. But that doesn't stop you from making wudu. Okay? Because you're doing it for Allah. Now there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he wiped his head and he also wiped his turban. But what they say is he wiped a quarter of his head first, and then he, just for completeness, he wiped the rest of his turban. So it doesn't mean you can do that. Okay. Maybe there's other madhabs that allow wiping over the hijab, but that's not the Hanafi school. Okay, so if you've done it, we can check if there's a school of thought that allows it. Okay. Next thing, wiping over a cast. Okay, so if you have, I'm just going to summarize this. If you have a broken limb or something, God forbid, and then you want to put a bandage or a cast on it, you do not need to have wudu before you put the cast. Okay, in other schools of thought, you have to make wudu first, then put the cast in order to wipe over the cast. That's very difficult. So if somebody breaks their arm and they're in the ER, God forbid, the doctor's not going to say, hey, make your wudu first, buddy, because I have to put, right? It's not, right? So I mean, this is just reality. It's not, right? So the Hanafi school is very, very flexible with this. Once you put the bandage or the cast on, may Allah give us afiyah, then you can wipe over that. Now, what happens, so you do not also have to wipe the entire cast. It's like wipe most of it. Now, in the Band-Aid, as long as the wound is still not healed, once the wound heals, you have no excuse. You have to wash underneath. But once it's healing, it's a scab, you can still wipe over the Band-Aid. And now, what happens if even putting water on it is going to damage it? Then you don't even have to put water on it. You can skip that area and just go around it. What happens if you have a bandage like this? So the cut is maybe only this big, but you have a bandage like this, but it's keeping that gauze in place. You don't have to wash underneath the entire area of the bandage. So you can wipe over that. You get it? So it's very merciful, in other words. Very, very merciful, okay? And even between the bandage, if there's skin that's showing and it's not injured, you don't even have to wipe the skin that's exposed because it's all part of the same bandage. Once you wipe most of it, it's fine, okay? Now, if the cast or the bandage falls off and the wound has not healed, okay, then it does not break your wudu. However, if the cast or bandage falls off and you had wiped over and you see that it has healed, then your wudu is broken, you have to wash it, okay, and start again. Okay, now we have some time. I'm going to try to do this, okay? This is menstruation and postnatal bleeding. This, my brothers, actually this knowledge is actually also, if you have any women folk in your family, this knowledge is also obligatory on you all to learn as well. People think that menstruation is only for women. But if you have a daughter who you have to teach, if you have a mother or a sister who doesn't have a place to ask questions, then it's good for you to know this. Why else is it very important for men to know the laws of menstruation? Because it affects men. Because men need to know if they cannot have marital relations with their wife. Some men, they don't have, so the wife is saying, look, you're not supposed to do this on the period. The men, because they never bothered, they say, this is your fiqh, not my fiqh. So then they're doing haram things, forcing the woman to do haram, because they don't have knowledge of this. Or sometimes a man ignorantly wakes up and they're forcing their daughter, who has her period, they're forcing her to fast. And there's no shame in having a period. Okay, yes, it's a personal thing, so you don't advertise on a board. But if you notice that your daughter is not fasting for some reason, or not coming to join you in prayer, you don't have to start inquiring. This is why when you teach fiqh to everyone, you empower everyone. But you have to be mature about it as well, right? So, menstruation is defined as blood that exits from the uterus of the woman who is free from a disease or pregnancy. So a pregnant woman cannot have a period. Once a woman is pregnant, she cannot have a period, even if she sees blood, okay, which could happen. And the menstruation is only what comes out after the age of adolescence. So if a 5-year-old sees blood, that is not the period. It has to be within the ages of adolescence, and that is defined. That is defined as, I'll tell you. So the puberty, the minimum age is 9 lunar years. So it's about 8 years and 9 months. So the youngest a girl can get her period is about 9 years old, okay? Younger than that, it doesn't count. And yeah, and then menopause depends on the woman, what age that comes. Next thing, the minimum period duration is 72 hours, 3 days. So you cannot say I had a 1-day period, a 2-day period. It has to be a 3-day bleeding in order for that to be a period. And then the maximum is 10 days. After 10 days, meaning 240 hours, okay? After that, the period is over, and you have to go back to praying, take a ghusl, go back to praying and fasting, even if the blood is still coming. And after that 10 days, it is permissible to have marital relations, okay? So, but most people have an average between 3 to 10 days, and that's called your habit, okay? If bleeding is for less than 3 days or more than 10 days, that part, the excess is not menstruation. Rather, it's called istihada, irregular or dysfunctional bleeding, okay? And you treat that like a nosebleed. So it's no longer, so day 12, it's still bleeding, it's not period. Go back to praying, fasting, intercourse, fine, but treat it like a nosebleed. It just breaks your wudu. You don't have to take ghusl every time now, okay? During menstruation, you don't only have to see red. Any color other than the clear or the white is blood. You see brown, that's blood. You see green, that's blood. You see yellow, that's blood. If a woman sees yellow all the time normally, however, then there is a position that says, okay, that's not counted as blood. Because some people see yellow all the time, so instead of making them count as bleeding. But sometimes people only see brown, they only see green, right? So all of that is considered blood, no matter what color. So you wait until the colors go, and it becomes clear again, like egg yolk, and then you start praying and fasting. Right? You take a ghusl, you pray and fast. Okay. Even if there's a break in between the bleeding, so day 3, the bleeding, day 4, the bleeding stopped, then day 5, it came back, all the time in between is also considered period. So it doesn't mean it has to constantly flow. It comes, then it stops, then comes and stops. This is why do not take the ghusl until you're sure it's over. Because what happens, some women, what they do, day 6, it stops, and then they say, oh, it stopped now, I'll take a ghusl. Then it comes back next half an hour. Oh, I just took a bath. And then it stops again in 1 hour. Then you take a ghusl again. And then you get tired taking so many ghusls. No. If you know your body, wait until the end, and you know it's not coming back, then take the ghusl once, and then khalas, move on. And if you keep checking, then it's going to be, Okay, so the following things are unlawful during menstruation. Sexual intercourse, okay? Tawaf, entering a masjid, even if just to pass through the masjid. Okay, so actually being in a masjid. Now, what is the masjid proper? This is not the masjid proper. The masjid proper is down there, okay? So one thing about in the Hanafi school, holding a class up here is that the sisters on their period are able to attend the class. But there is a Hanbali or a Salafi opinion, it's a minority opinion that allowed women to enter the masjid during their period as long as it didn't drip on the ground. But obviously nowadays that doesn't happen, okay? So that position is what we use. We don't ask all the women who are coming in, and many of them don't even know that rule. So sometimes if a person is not following the Hanafi school, that's their business, right? Any questions about that? Okay. Next thing is touching, being okay. Technically speaking, a husband cannot touch his wife from the navel to the knee. It's not just intercourse. He can't even touch her. But other schools of thought, they say, no, he can touch her as long as he doesn't fear that it's going to lead to intercourse, right? Are we almost? You cannot recite the Quran out loud except for du'as. Ayatul Kursi, 3 quls, that's fine. And you cannot touch the Quran directly without a barrier, okay? So we will stop here and people can ask questions and then we will finish up Tahara. Wow, we still have some time to go. So in Janaba and in the period, it's considered a major impurity. So we don't recite Quran. Even during Janaba, you don't recite Quran. Yes, even reciting. If it's a dua, it's different, but not like actual recitation. Even if it's memorized, yeah. But then there is a Maliki school position that allows a student who's learning or teaching to do it even on the period so she doesn't lose the Quran. So you can follow this if there's a hardship. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. People can come up and ask questions because we have to keep going. Dua. Yes, duas. Sure.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
If there's dust on it. If there's dust on it, then yes.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.